I love that you sent me that graphic earlier today because it's the perfect open for the show. The first postseason officially since 1998. It's been almost 30 years since we've had a postseason that didn't feature either Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Patrick Mahomes. Pretty wild to think about. Um, 2.5 generations worth of quarterbacks, you could say, because Peyton was what, 3 years older than Tom.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously, Mahomes coming in to the league in 2017. So yeah, 30 years of playoff football. It's going to feel a little different here in 2026.
What I love so much about that stat is a couple things, but mainly the fact that we have been so lucky as football fans. We both started our fandom really around the start of Peyton's career, like 99,
Mhm.
2000, where we were 11, 10 years old, where it's like, oh, I'm now consuming football at a regular rate, like kids start to do when you fall in love with the sport. So it really spans our football life. And we'll obviously talk Mahomes here really a ton, but shout out to Brady and Manning too. I mean, if you think back to when we were in high school and the duels between Manning and Brady and Indy, and then when Manning was in Denver, um, they, they were the biggest games. Like it felt like every one of those games was Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, and it was must watch television. And really we get that again now with like Mahomes and Allen and Lamar and Burrow and Mahomes. Like we have this kind of group of that's rekindled that. Um,
Yep.
Obviously, Peyton and Tom, I think, are a different level because they're both top five guys of all time. But who knows? Maybe some of these young guys, when it's all said and done, will be saying kind of the same thing about that.
It was actually interesting because I was surprised to learn that Peyton and the Colts made it in 99 and 2000 because I just recall like the beginning of his career
It was a little
being so
rough.
so rough, but I guess it really was just like a year and a half and then they were fine and on the moving train after that. But yeah, no, it's interesting that 2026 is going to have that different feel to it. But at the same time, while I appreciated those years of amazing quarterback play from all of those, you didn't really like feel it in the time, like, oh, there's a streak of like,
Yeah.
playoff quarterbacks going here. I mean, we knew the stat for a long time though that the AFC was either represented by Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, or Tom Brady for like
Yeah. Yeah.
15 years. Um, so, but
I
yeah,
think
now
what
when you look back and you're like, oh yeah, this will be the first playoff without any of the goats
yeah,
playing. Matt Stafford's probably going to be the best quarterback.
for sure.
Josh Allen, in there.
You're
So
I think you made a really great point. Like it didn't seem like it at the time, the run we're on, but it didn't seem like it didn't really seem like that for us in the last couple of years either. We just kind of took for granted that you had Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Mahomes, right? In the AFC. It's what we picked. I think we
yeah,
said on this show back in February, congrats to the Kansas City Chiefs. They won the AFC West. Like we made that joke. And it's like, it just goes to show you truly never know what a year will bring. Packers fans are reeling with that now. Obviously, Chiefs fans are reeling with that now, and the NFL giveth and the NFL taketh. It's going to be, I think, a wild Final Four teams,
yeah.
and certainly not what anyone maybe would have predicted at the beginning of the season.
The push for the postseason is, as it always is, going to be a very dramatic one, but a little bit different here in 2026. All right, we're going to dive in to all the happenings from Week 15. A little bit early show for us here on the Football Lounge this week, but nonetheless excited to dive into some of those big matchups from the week. It's going to be a little shorter, more intentional episode, I'd say, here on the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan as we pick apart a couple of those key matchups from the week. Certainly the ones that shaped the current playoff standings. Mark, I do want to touch real quick on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've lost two in a row now. Two games that you had essentially bookmarked as, wins, Saints and Falcons. Not only were they two reeling teams, they're two teams in your division that they have now lost to. They're 7-7, slowly starting to unravel a little bit, Mark. And meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers are nipping at their heels. I truly feel, and I've been signaling this now for like about a month. Don't cast off the NFC South as a foregone conclusion at this point for Tampa Bay. Still thought they were going to win it. I'm legitimately like at like the getting close to a panic moment for Tampa.
I'll say this. I mean, I would feel the way you're feeling if I didn't just watch Tyler Shuck beat the Panthers, and the Panthers have everything laid in front of them. The Panthers knew since Thursday night they win and they can take a stranglehold on this division, and they laid that kind of an egg against the Saints. So, as if you want to talk Bucks, I want to talk Panthers. You know what I mean? Like, I think both teams right now are absolutely kind of reeling. But one of them is going to win this thing, and it kind of sucks because I think the Saints are maybe playing the best football in the NFC South right now. They just beat the Bucks and the Panthers in a row, but they dug themselves in too big of a hole. I'll wait to see what happens. Obviously, they're going to play, and we'll see. But I think the best thing right now, the biggest edge for one of these two teams is the Bucks just got a mini bye. They played on Thursday. They lost. Yes. They're licking their wounds, and then they watched the Panthers embarrass themselves and lose as well in a very winnable game, and a game where it's like they had to win. And I think that's probably if you're in that Bucks locker room, you're looking, okay, we just got Mike Evans back. He played. He's healthy. Let's regroup. Let's take a little extra days off. I'm very confident. I think the Bucks are going to take this division, mainly because I think the Panthers just had their chance and completely fell on their face.
I mean, okay, like they fell on their face, but they lost by 3, so it's like, I'm not gonna, say it was like a total disaster. Granted, look, they both play each other twice the rest of the way. So we're gonna find out a lot about who's gonna win this division probably next week, because if the Panthers lose next week, they have to play Seattle and then Tampa again. That's probably too much to overcome, but I just don't feel confident about really either one of these teams. And the Bucks, at least afterwards, can play the Dolphins and then the Panthers again. Like, the Bucks have an easier slate, it seems, than Carolina. But yeah, we'll find out a lot. Let's talk about your Bears real quick. Absolutely destroyed the Cleveland Browns, but the one bright spot for the Browns, the Myles Garrett got, just that little bit closer to the NFL sack record.
One away.
That was the only thing that you could say is a redeeming quality of it. Look, the Browns were bad. You would expect the Bears to win, but you had to probably feel at least decent about how the Bears showed up in this game, and they could easily win this game, 10-3, and you're probably not feeling super great. They win 31-3. You're like, okay, we're starting to get rolling again here.
So really quickly in Myles Garrett, I think I'm rooting for him to get it in the next 2 games. I don't want it to be like he gets 1 sack in week 17 to tie it. I mean, week 18 to tie it. And it's like, well, you had the 17 games. I want to see him get it in a 16-game season. I'm moving on to the Bears. Listen, I think there was a moment that I was, and you could tell in my tweeting, that I was about to get really frustrated because the Bears were up 14-0. They were on their own 50-yard line, and they went for it on 4th down. And I liked the call. Be aggressive, step on the throats. They don't get it. And I literally got up. I looked at my wife, and I was like, I'm going to the bathroom. And I said it because in my head, I was like, I'm going to go pee. And in that 5 seconds, I'm going to come back and it's going to be 14-7, and the Bears are going to have given up a big touchdown, and all of a sudden it's going to be crap. We're unraveling, and now we're in a dogfight with the Browns. And what did they do? They didn't let that happen. They gave up a field goal, and then they got the ball back, and they immediately scored, and it was all of a sudden 21-3, and I was like, oh my God. This is even a different
foreign territory,
team that was playing against the Bengals, a different team that was playing against the Steelers, a different team that was playing against the Raiders early in the year. When the Bears went on that run, remember, they were winning these games, but it was a clawing death match, and it wasn't complete games. They never played a complete game. They had a moment where it got a little hairy, but they battled back, and all of a sudden they played a complete game. And that brought me so much joy to see a complete game victory. Defense was special. Offense was special. Special teams was very good, except for Cairo Santos, which, again, why am I tweeting about Cairo Santos? He's going to drive me crazy. I know it. I just know it. I need Cairo Santos to nut up and make the kicks he's supposed to make, because he can't make any of the kicks that most other kickers can make. So he has to make those kicks. Really quickly, the Rome Odunze thing was frustrating. I didn't think he should have tried to go, but if the medical staff is going to say, yeah, go, clear, give it a warm up, and then he re-injures it, what the fuck are we doing? Like, that is unacceptable, because now he's probably not going to be good to go for this Packers game. And God only knows, like, now do we have to really baby this foot? If it was that touch or go, take the caution and put one of your best players in a spot to be needed when it's needed most. So really was frustrated by that. But overall, Caleb Williams, this was if you're still hating on Caleb Williams, like, you're just going to be a hater, and that's fine. Like, every quarterback's got haters. I hated on Aaron Rodgers. I'm a hater of Bo Nix, just because, like, every quarterback's got haters, right? Non-believers. But if you're one of those people that's just not believing just because you're listening to the national media for over the last 18 months, just watch the game. I implore you to watch the highlights. This kid is special. And this kid, in that weather, minus 15 feels like, it didn't bother him at all. And I know it's like he's got the reputation of the Southern Cal kid because he played at USC, but he grew up in Washington, D.C., where they get right.
And he started in Oklahoma,
where they get weather. And so it's like his ball, his accuracy, his demeanor in that weather in a big pressure game was fantastic. I'll end on this. I love they committed to the run. I think DeAndre Swift looked fantastic. I think both tight ends are really playing well. I know that Cole Kmet, God, I really wish he would have hung on to that ball early in the game. That was such a beautiful throw and catch, and just got knocked out. This was the game that I said when we broke down the schedule in August. Dude, I'm so scared because it's Packers, Browns, Packers. Like, we're going to lose that game to the Browns, because you're going to lose the Packers at Lambeau, and then you're going to be thinking about it, and then you're going to lose the Browns because you're thinking about the Packers the next week, and it's a total trap game. And for them to play the way they did and to come out inspired, get a nice 14-0 lead early, hit a little bit of a slog, and then get back on the gas. I just loved it. Loved it. I think this Bears team is putting themselves in a great spot to beat the Packers next week, and then pretty much completely control their destiny, maybe still for the 1 seed for the remainder of the playoffs for the regular season. Vibes are very high in Chicago.
They're that much closer to that 12-win guaranteed
12.
Playoffs type of situation.
2 of 3 now. It's down to 2 of 3.
I'd feel very confident right now in saying that they're at least going to be an 11-win team this year, which is pretty awesome.
Remarkable.
To think about what we were talking about preseason. Baltimore Ravens go on the road in a, again, very important game. Of course, they're fighting for their playoff lives against a Bengals team that was clinching onto the very last vestiges of what could be a playoff run. And a week after Joe Burrow gave that very, very somber press conference, he had perhaps the worst game of his career. 25 of 39, that on its face, not terrible. 225, no touchdowns though, 2 interceptions, took some bad sacks as well. Wasn't connecting with guys on key plays except for Jamar Chase. Lamar Jackson didn't really have to do anything this game. He just connected with Zay Flowers on a couple big throws and Mark Andrews on 1 or 2 others. And then they just kind of coasted with 189 yards on the ground. But the important note was it's the shutout for Baltimore. They go to 7-7. They keep applying that pressure now on Pittsburgh, who, if they lose tonight, it's going to be right there setting the stage for Week 18. It probably still will set the stage for Week 18, even if Pittsburgh wins Monday Night Football. But the Baltimore Ravens getting that win and putting the pressure on, very important moment for them here this week.
Yeah, don't let the Bengals in the playoffs. And the Ravens said, we're not going to let you in the playoffs. I love what Joe Burrow said after this game, which is he owned it. He said,
Yeah,
no
said he was
team would
terrible.
win with me as a quarterback today. Listen, I think for Joe, there was a rush to get back and that excitement to get back, and he came out hot. And I think the reality once again settled in for him of like, here I am once again after that Super Bowl run, dealing with injuries and dealing with a hole and not being ever ahead again. And I think that's got to be exhausting. This team, kind of like the Chiefs, who we'll talk about, need a complete just kind of reset. For the Ravens, love this win for the Ravens in a tough divisional game. They kind of flexed a little bit of their muscle, just got to business, got a win, got back on track. And I love that the Ravens did this. So the AFC South has AFC North has that interesting race. We got every
Yeah, because it's
division.
got no good teams in it, so you might as well
Yeah.
make it like dramatic.
It's
Yeah,
like
the
it's
NFC
just like
South,
the
kinda.
yes, exactly right. So we have something to kind of be dramatic about, and it puts a ton of weight on this Monday Night Football game, which we'll talk about here at the end of the show.
Yep, absolutely. Chargers Chiefs, big game obviously for both of these teams. The Chiefs, much like the Bengals, had their final inches of hope and potentially getting into the postseason. The Chargers obviously trying to keep pace just for a wild card spot, with Denver continuing to win and run away with the AFC West. Big news from this game, obviously, is Patrick Mahomes goes down with the torn ACL, done for the year. 16-13, the final. Chargers win. They get to 10 wins. They are looking really good. They are going to be a wild card team. I feel extremely confident now at saying that. For the Chiefs, it's almost, I mean, you hate to talk about any injury this way, but it's like if Mahomes is going to have that, year where he just, Tom had a couple years there. Every quarterback who's going to play 20 years is going to have those gaps where they just have a giant injury that puts them out. You don't like when it happened late in the season, but like if it's going to happen in a season, might as well have it be this one, Chiefs. Like this, you were barely clinching to hope. The team is starting to fall apart. This almost just kind of forces now the total reboot that I think was coming anyway.
Yeah, really quickly in the Chargers, they are the team you do not want to play if you're in a rock fight. If you were in a rock fight, they're going to fight with rocks because of their head coach. They have to be scrappy because
It's remarkable what they're doing, though.
They're so injured, and for what their identity is, you know what I mean. It is their identity to be physical with their strong, big offensive line to run the ball, and they have decimation injuries at running back and offensive lines. It's like they are just beating you with punch for punch, standing in the ring and just saying each other, and we think we're going to be the tougher team, and somehow they're managing that. So you don't want to play them if you're in that situation. If it's a bad weather game or everyone's kind of off, it just feels like the Chargers are going to win the rock fight type game. I will say this for the Chiefs. I've said it for the last couple of weeks. It looks like a team that's played too much football, and it looks like a team that is just worn down, and it looks like a team that, as we mentioned, is just devoid of high-end talent. And when you're devoid of high-end talent and you're worn down and you're not really filling the roster out with other guys because you're picking at the bottom of rounds and you're paying your quarterback a ton of money, this is kind of what happens. And there's a ton of parallels between Patrick and Brady. It's really creepy, kind of. It's that kind of Lincoln Kennedy assassination type stuff, where it's like, dude, this is a little weird. The difference being Tom's injury happened week 1,
Exactly.
and so they missed the playoffs, but we're an 11-win team with Matt Castle, and then Tom was ready to go for week 1, the start of the next year, and then the dynasty was back on. Now, again, he didn't win a Super Bowl for a couple more years after that, but they were a playoff team and a dominant team and in AFC title games, in big AFC playoff games. For the Chiefs, I'm thinking this looks more like a 2-year lapse because Mahomes was not going to be ready to start the beginning of the season. And so depending on where you're at, come start of November next year when Mahomes is ready to maybe roll, we'll see. I think Mahomes is the type of guy who's going to play no matter what. We'll have a ton of time to talk about this in the offseason, but I'll end with this. My initial thought is, in a lot of ways, maybe this is the best thing to happen to Patrick Mahomes. when Brady got injured, he talks a ton about his injury, post-injury, the way he treated his body differently, the way he was more mindful of his body. Patrick Mahomes was running way too much. And I think that's partially on the Chiefs organization. And that's partially on Pat is now on the other side of 30, and you're just not who you are. And also, Pat, the last couple of years, we've kind of joked about the dad bod Pat. I personally think an offseason where Mahomes has to be dedicated to getting healthy and physically working out, like committed to getting back into his health. I think when we see Pat again, we may see a little bit more of the explosive arm,
Yeah.
fit, younger Mahomes. Maybe. I don't know, but I'm just projecting out there. I'm trying to give Chiefs fans a little hope. They don't need hope. They're a dynasty of a bunch of things to hang your hat on. But if you're going to find a glimmer of hope, that maybe could be it. And it's also an easy way to move on from Kelsey and some other guys, Chris Jones, because Pat's not going to be there to start the season next year. So maybe you guys don't have to be there, and they can really retool this roster with younger talent, get some draft picks,
Do you think
trade
he
off
won't
some
be there?
guys.
I kind of like with the way that ACL surgeries are nowadays and the recovery systems. I don't know if we
Maybe.
don't see him week 1.
Yeah, it might be.
It'll be he'll at that point probably still be, a little bit more immobile.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we saw like Carson Wentz play on a torn ACL several years ago and Philip Rivers has,
True.
I think we'll see Patrick Mahomes week 1 next year. He won't no training camp probably and no preseason for sure.
Well, maybe. I mean, and
But yeah,
again, if
we'll
he
see.
does it, it's like that's that commitment to getting in shape and being healthy.
Yeah.
And I think again, a motivated Mahomes in that way. The champ has kind of fallen here and it's taken a big hit. I expect the champ to be back. Maybe not next year, but the Chiefs will be that sleeping giant in a year or two from now for sure.
The Buffalo Bills got a huge win against the AFC East rival New England Patriots, 35-31. They were down 21-0. Great game plan coming out from New England in this one, especially on defense. They were bottling up Buffalo left and right, and Josh wasn't able to connect many times with the tight end down the seam and, causing early 3-and-outs. I was like, the big turning point obviously was when Buffalo started scoring, but it was also because of like what New England did after that. They had opportunity after opportunity, right? Kept squandering it. It was more just like constant 3-and-outs. They had a 3-and-out and then they had a pick. And then after that, it was one play, 65-yard touchdown. This was at this point, they're in the fourth quarter and had to retake the lead again. But then after that, it's 3 plays punt and then 4 plays downs at the end of the game. And then it was so they really, really started to fall apart. New England did. But this was 2 really talented teams going at it. This is kind of why I was saying I'm not believers in like the 1 seed Patriots. Like I still think they're a year away, but now they're a year away from being like potential powerhouses, Whereas before I just thought they were a year away from the playoffs, which clearly they're making it this year. But I thought this was way more about Buffalo claiming their stake and saying we're not giving up on this division. This is going to be a really exciting race that I'm very much looking forward to watching unfold over these final few weeks.
Yeah, the Patriots. Listen, I'm not panicking if I'm New England. Again, I feel like they're like Chicago. They're a year ahead of schedule, and they have a great head coach. They have a bunch of spots and talent they still need to fill on that roster. And their young quarterback had a little bit of a dud in the second half, and the pressure got really big, and he didn't play great. Now, I love some of what he did. The 2 rushing touchdowns were great. He's very, very mobile and actively mobile. Obviously, he was doing that lead block for the long touchdown run there. All of that you love. Like Drake May absolutely still is a guy I'm 100% buying all the stock in. And he had a crappy second half when the pressure was ramped up by the MVP and the big bad Bills. Credit to the Bills. Now, I got to be honest. I've since now watched the highlights of this game. I was watching the Lions and Rams, and I just every time they cut in, it was like, oh my God, the Bills are down 21 nothing. I even said something to my wife. I was like, the Bills are dead. Like, this is crazy. The Patriots are blowing them out, and it's early. Like, this is ugly. And like, how are we going to justify this? And you fire Sean McDermott. Like, all these things are going to my head. And all of a sudden I look and I'm like, wait a minute. It's 21-24. They're down by 3. Like, good for the, and I literally said, good for the Bills. They're in this game. Like, okay, it's not
Yeah.
embarrassing, but I still felt like the Patriots would like take care of business. And the Bills just kept going. Cook is a stud. Allen is a monster. I love Vrabel's quote afterwards. He basically said, he's like, yeah, well, the guy is 6'5". He's running over people. He's got a rocket arm. Like, he's going to beat you sometimes. Um, it's a really fun rivalry. We got some really great rivalries brewing in divisions, not just Mahomes Allen in the AFC. Now we have real division rivalries brewing in the East, brewing in the West of the AFC, where there wasn't the last couple of years. It was Mahomes
Yeah.
and Allen just kind of running the division the last 3 years. And while the AFC North we had a rivalry, and the AFC South we have rivalries. Now we have it in all of the AFC. Each division has some real legitimate 1A, 1B teams and battling for position with
Yeah.
with a couple of the divisions having a third team that's very, very viable. So the AFC is I don't know if the AFC is as Super Bowl heavy as the NFC, but they're viable. There's some really, really great battles.
No, agreed. It's gonna be fun to watch. I did want to real quickly, not necessarily talk about the game, but the Jacksonville Jaguars blew the pants off of the Jets, 48-20. Trevor Lawrence, 6 total touchdowns in the win. The Jags are they're not just like, oh, the AFC South team that's benefiting from a weaker division. I mean, obviously it was a stronger division earlier this year, but with the Texans, it's still very much intimidating. But the Jags, I think, are just straight up a good football team. Like, they're, to me, a top 10 football team right now in the NFL, and probably closer to like top 6, top 7 when it's all said and done. I just think this is the Trevor that you'd been wanting to see, and now he's starting to come out of his shell a little bit. Maybe Liam Cohen was the antidote to all of this, but it's working,
Maybe
and
Jacoby
I'm here for
Myers
it.
was the antidote to
Well,
all
yes,
this
a
too.
huge help. And he helped Brian Thomas a lot too, because
Yes.
Thomas is now that guy that can. And wait till we see Travis Hunter come back next year
Yeah.
with this group.
Yeah, no, it's really that was an in-season move that's not being talked about enough, and it's really helped solidify that offense, and it's really helped Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence did something in this game that's never been done, and I don't know the exact quote on it, but I've heard it on Part of My Take and on a bunch of other things and on Twitter. So I'll say it again for anyone else who hasn't heard it. He's like the first quarterback in NFL history in a game have 300 plus yards passing, 5 TD passes plus a rushing touchdown and over 50 yards rushing, something like that. Basically saying like he was everywhere. He did it all.
Just a
I mean,
very
6
all
total
around great.
touchdowns
Yeah,
and a couple of those throws. And I get it. It was the Jets. But again, kind of like how I felt about the Bears, how I felt about the Jags, where it's like, yeah, you beat the crap out of a bad football team that you're supposed to win at home. Bears at home, Jags at home, very different weather. You got the Jags fans swimming in the pool, you got the Bears fans at minus 20, but like they're winning at home against bad teams and their quarterbacks both playing really, really well. And kind of the last two generational quarterbacks that we, predicted to be that way. If I'm the Jags right now, I'm feeling really confident. I know you hate to say because you're already paying Lawrence, but it's only year 2 of his giant contract. And so it does feel a little ahead of schedule. So like I think this is kind of house money for the Jags, and I wouldn't be shocked right now if the Jags are playing in an AFC title game. I would not
yeah,
be shocked at
exactly.
all.
Same.
The way they match up against a Denver, against a New England, I think they're very much capable of winning those games. I think Houston is going to be tough for them because it's a divisional rival with a really elite defense that kind of knows their opponent. I think Buffalo will be tough because Buffalo kind of plays a similar brand of football where it's like kind of big offensive explosion and then rely on some turnovers and a defense to just make a play or two. So, and Buffalo's got the experience. They're the AFC team with the experience right now.
Yeah, and
Um,
harder weather to play in
and
too.
harder
So
weather to
going to
play in.
Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm the Jags, I'm doing everything in my power to win out, get to that 12 win mark. Hopefully you end up with the second seed, and then hopefully you're playing at home for 2 games before you have to go on the road anywhere. And maybe, just maybe, you'll end up hosting an AFC title game. It's a very realistic possibility. I'm glad you brought up the Jags. They're an impressive run right now for sure.
It's been a really good weekend for the NFC North and Bears fans. Green Bay Packers fall to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
They also lose Micah Parsons in this game with a torn ACL himself, so that's a huge blow to the Packers defense. But somehow, Mark, Denver's at 12 wins already. They're at 12-2. They're atop the AFC.
11 in a row right now, or is it 10 in a row? I mean, it's crazy what Denver's doing.
Just really hard to wrap my head around this team in general. Bo Nix had 4 touchdowns in this game, and like he looked good. He is
Yeah.
that guy that's like that has those totally up and down performances week to week. But this was a really good one against a really good defense.
He's
Yeah, I, I
feeling
I don't know what to make of this game.
he's feeling more and more like Dak Prescott. We both had said he kind of feels like he's the next Dak Prescott. He's really rounding into that form, right? Where it's pretty obvious he's not Josh Allen, right? It's pretty obvious he's not Mahomes, he's not Lamar, he's not Burrow. But it's also pretty obvious he's not Kyler Murray, and he's not Daniel Jones for the first X amount of years of Daniel Jones'
Yeah,
career, whatever it might be. That he's somewhere in between that, and that lands you with Dak Prescott. He's, you know what I mean? Like man, he's got a lot going for him. Tons of weapons, a great offensive line, a weapon of a head coach, and a defense that is nasty and playing at mile high. Broncos are definitely for real. They're deservedly the 1 seed in the AFC, and they're going to be a tough out for sure, especially if they're playing games at home in the playoffs. For the Packers, there's no shame in losing to the Denver Broncos at Denver. Absolutely not. The Packers are still a really good football team. The Packers without Micah Parsons and without Christian Watson, are
yeah.
they a Super Bowl team anymore? I don't think they're capable now of beating the Rams on the road. And the Rams on the road are kind of that's my tier 1 of the
Benchmark.
NFC,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
That's my benchmark in the NFC. So it's like now I'm starting to, with a healthy Micah Parsons and a healthy Christian Watson, even if they had lost this game, I'd still say, yeah, the Packers could beat the Rams on the road. I don't know if they could beat the Rams on the road right now. Christian Watson filled in beautifully without Tucker Kraft. Christian Watson is now he's been an injury-prone player. He's now like I don't even know if you can move forward with him type of player with like he's just gonna get injured. He's going to have a devastating injury at some point in time during your season. And as much as we talk about maybe Mahomes starts the season next year, Micah ain't starting the season. When you're an explosive player like that coming off an ACL,
I think you're
it's
probably
very
right.
different.
Yeah.
The killer for the Packers is, and this is the risk you run, ask the Colts. You go all in on Sauce Gardner. Then shit falls apart and Sauce Gardner gets injured. So now you're without your first round pick, and you probably won't have him till midway through next year. And so you're all in now. Looks like maybe it's not only ruining this season, but it could really impact next year. Now, the Packers still have Jordan Love. They still have weapons. They still have a great coach. They still have a great culture. They have a really great defense. I'm not saying it's going to ruin next year and ruin this year, but it does feel like a massive blow. And when you go all in like that, it can hurt. Listen, the Packers could go to Chicago next week and absolutely beat the Chicago Bears. Without question, they can absolutely do that. They're still a very talented football team. I don't know yet how I'm going to feel about the Packers. They have a tough schedule. They have Bears, they have the Ravens, and they have the Vikings. And the Vikings playing really good and would love to play spoiler at Minnesota in the final week of the year. The Ravens must win football games down the stretch, and they're playing better football. And then they're obviously playing against the Bears, who right now I think are a better football team. It's a tough stretch for the Packers. The thing they have going for them, though, is that tie. The Packers could lose out and still make the playoffs if the Bears beat the Lions in that final week of the year and a couple other things happen. So they're in a good spot for sure still to make the playoffs. But when you're in this type of talent and this type of all in, you don't want to just make the playoffs. This should be an NFC title game team. And now I just don't know if that's going to be it because of the injuries.
Yeah.
We'll see how they respond. If they beat the Bears and they show up and guys step up and maybe Matthew Golden finally arrives for this team, the first round pick, absolutely the Packers could just, waltz right back into that conversation. Right now it feels though like they just took a step down.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unfortunate for them, especially in a week where, they were able to, have a shot at making up some ground on Detroit as well. Or not making up ground, but really separating. I should say. Especially with the Bears winning. Now that's a little tougher, and that sets up that game next week to be
huge,
even bigger.
And
right?
what we now know for my NFC North fans, you probably already know this, but I want to lay it really quickly. We now know, because the Bears win and the Lions loss, that the worst outcome for the Bears right now will be a Week 18 playoff game. That at this point in time, if the Bears lose the next two games, if they lose to Green Bay and they lose to San Francisco, and the Lions win, they know, or even if the Lions don't win, Week 18 for the Bears will be a win and get in situation.
Yeah.
At worst, they will have a winning, and that's a really great place to be, to know that in year one of Ben Johnson, I have a Week 18 playoff game, win and get in. That's a great spot to be. Obviously, you don't want it to be that way. You just want to win out and put the pressure on. But that's what shifted in the playoff picture. We talked so much about that last week. That's the shift, with the Packers and Lions losing and the Bears winning. That's where we sit now.
The Lions had a chance against the best team in the NFC, best team in the NFL, and the LA Rams, but the Rams win 41-34. I thought the real great indicator for Detroit's standpoint is that I thought Jared Goff played really, really well. And there's been a lot of times this season where he's kind of maintained. The downside was that they couldn't rely on their running backs that they have all year to do much of anything. That was a really rough game running the football. And so I'm wondering if this team's becoming a little bit more one-dimensional, despite the fact that they threw 41 times, despite that Jared Goff put up 338 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, that they are a team that can't win when they don't rush for 4.5 yards a carry, and when Jahmyr Gibbs, isn't having those explosive runs. That's the worrisome part for me, because the Rams, as we've seen, they can do it all, and they're so balanced. And even when Jared Goff's clicking on all cylinders, they're still putting up 41 on you and winning the game.
Yeah, the Lions, I think now I feel very confident in saying, are a team that does not need a rebuild. They need a couple pieces here, and if they focus on reinvigorating the interior of their offensive line in the offseason, and maybe make a coaching change, or adding another one or two players on defense to be impactful, I really do think they're a team that will be right back in it. Like, they're not far away. And they just feel like they're missing one or two things. They need an X factor on defense, and they need to consistently run the football. Whether that was Ben Johnson, I think it's a little bit more no Ragnow and an offensive line thing. Like, you still have Penei Sewell, but I think they really need to go get the best free agent guard or center, and then draft a tackle, and then also find another edge rusher. And they'll be right back in it. Listen, this is a good Detroit Lions team, and they don't need it.
I mean, they're a team you wouldn't want to see in the playoffs.
No, they don't need an upheaval. It's a little off right now. And that happens when you win 15 games a year before, and you lose your two coordinators and a star offensive lineman. They're still a really good football team. This is the Detroit Lions we're talking about, a perennial loser. I mean, they are the Jets, they are the Bears, they are the Browns, and yet they're an above 500 team that is absolutely battling for the playoffs for the third year in a row. Like, it's still a remarkable thing. So I don't want to overreact in the opposite way to the Lions. And also, again, you went on the road to the best team, in my opinion, of football, the Los Angeles Rams. And if you get into a shootout with the Rams, It ain't happening. Now the Rams,
Yeah,
Devontae
sad.
Adams, it looks like he's out the rest of the year as far as
Yeah,
like the regular season
really
to
rough
rehab
injury
get
there.
that
Terrible day for
hamstring.
injury.
Yeah, get that hamstring healthy. I think that's okay. Like get that hamstring healthy. If the Rams can survive Thursday night football against Seattle, get a win, they have kind of a stranglehold on the division and kind of coast in to the division of the 1 seed. I don't think the Rams need the division or the 1 seed. I think it'll help, but I don't think they need
Yeah.
it. I still think they're the best team of football. When Adams is going to be healthy for the playoff run, they're going to be dangerous. If they can get the bye, I think that's going to be even more important now with just Stafford's age, Nakua's injury history, Adams getting an extra week. I think that's going to
Yeah.
be really important for them now. So I think you'll see them try to prioritize locking up that 1 seed, and they control their own destiny. If they win out, the 1 seed is theirs.
Absolutely. And I think they'll get it. We could talk real quick about what it was like to see 44-year-old Philip Rivers put on the uniform and sling it again. I love that the player props were 150 yards passing, and it seemed so hysterical because you don't see something that low. And so everybody was betting the over. They're like, oh, he's getting, I think he had what, 120 or something like
It
that.
was
But it was cool, man. It was cool to
Yeah.
see him out there. He's the same age as people mentioned, Charles Tillman, Troy Polamalu.
Oh, that's why
These guys are the same. Like that would be. Imagine Troy Polamalu coming back and playing. He hasn't played in a decade.
It's
you
wild.
know, it's that's pretty funny to see some of those comparisons.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool. And the Seahawks. I mean, they almost beat the Seahawks. That would have
they
been
did.
a pretty difficult loss for Seattle to contend with. And then the Rams are like for sure getting the 1 seed at that point. It feels like, right?
I mean, I love that they've already announced he's the starter next week and he's going to kind of ride out.
Yeah, you got to do, of course.
You bring him back, he's kind of earned that right. And he didn't play horribly. It felt like I was watching Phil Rivers, because the motion, he's just got that unique.
Right, yeah, he's got very unique throwing
it's like
motion.
when you see Sammy Sosa swing the bat, that's Sammy Sosa's swing. You know what I mean? That's what Phil Rivers throwing the football looks like. I was worried for him at times, and there were some hilarious moments, but it was good. It was nostalgia and fun, and I feel for the Colts. They have a really tough schedule, and they got to go 2-1 over the next 3 to have a chance. 3-0 will get them in, but 2-1 and some things go their way. But it's a tough schedule, and we'll see what they can do. It wouldn't shock me if Rivers now next week has a little more pop and a little more get my legs under me a little bit more, get some treatment.
Finally got hit again,
Yeah, right. And like a little bit of that game shape going. It's gonna be fun to watch. Keep watching Phil Rivers for the rest of the year for sure.
Any other items from the week before we get into our
no, I'll say this about Shedeur. I don't think Shedeur is a bad quarterback. I think he had a bad game. I think Shedeur is if I was a Cleveland Browns, I don't think I'd be in a rush to draft a quarterback in round 1 unless Mendoza fell to me. Mendoza is starting to feel like he could separate. Like I really love the way he comported himself at the Heisman ceremony. He's big, he's strong, he's tall. I think a lot of teams would be really excited to land a Mendoza.
Well, now he might be the only quarterback that's, available in the draft because everybody's coming back so far.
Yeah, and I wouldn't I think Shedeur. I get the sense that kind of like how I feel about Shuck with New Orleans. Like I'd like to see now an off-season building and
with that in mind,
and go because he's got the talent. I mean, his scramble is in the pocket, the arm. There's a lot of it's all there. He made a couple dumb decisions, and in frigid cold weather against a team that is playing for a lot more than Cleveland is playing for, and has a lot more talent than Cleveland has right now. I think I felt, even though in a bad game, like I'm okay if the Cleveland Browns are like, we're going to give him an offseason, we're going to run with Shedeur.
Well, the Miami Dolphins have won 4 in a row. They've won 5 of their last 6. One of the hottest teams in football, Mark. They travel to Pittsburgh. It's pretty icy there, very cold. Looks like it's going to be a game with a lot of running of the football. But big game, obviously, for both. For the Dolphins, if they lose, they're pretty close to eliminating themselves from the playoffs, although not entirely. For Pittsburgh, it's a chance to, be a game up on the Baltimore Ravens for the division. Otherwise, we're right back to both teams being 7-7 and leading to this Week 18 showdown. So, yeah, a lot on the line for both teams here. Steelers are at home. They're a 3-point favorite. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I have Steelers money line parlayed with Aaron Rodgers over 200 yards and 1 touchdown, and Tua over 150 yards and 1 touchdown.
All
So
right.
a little bit of easy. The thing is, I feel like the numbers of the passers are going to hit. It's more just I'm banking on the Steelers win. I think the Dolphins kind of escaped their cold weather game with a win. And I think now it's going to kind of come back and get them. I think Mike McDaniel's done a great job. I think he's showed that he belongs with another chance. But I think Pittsburgh is playing for something. I think Pittsburgh, knowing with TJ Watt's freak training deflated lung injury.
Yeah, crazy story.
I think you're going to see a rally in Pittsburgh. I think that crowd's going to be rocking. Knowing to the Baltimore one keeps the pedal on. Aaron Rodgers coming off his best game, and he's getting an extra day of rest in the cold. Aaron Rodgers, it just feels like this is Monday night. Like, I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Tomlin's got 21 wins on Monday night. The Steelers have a very, very good record on Monday Night Football. I don't think that means anything really, but
I don't think it's going to be pretty. But I think Steelers 24-17, 24-20 in what will be a they control the game. Maybe the Dolphins score late to make it look a little closer. I think you're going to see Aaron Rodgers, kind of a vintage Monday night, last hurrah Monday night national audience. People want to talk about me, Aaron Rodgers type performance.
Yeah. No, I think Pittsburgh will win. 27-23 is kind of what I'm feeling. So yeah, we're in the same area. I do think there's going to be a lot of running the football in this one. Jaylen Warren was a last minute addition to the injury report, but he's going to play. He's going to tough it out. Had an illness of some sort. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll have certainly a lot to talk about next week as we get into, obviously, we'll know more about the AFC North situation, but a lot of matchups to be looking for in Week 16 and beyond, as we're pretty much all divisional games at this point in time. So really exciting breakdown coming up next week. And yeah, that'll do it for this early edition of the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan. We'll see y'all next week.